Testing, testing. Okay. You want to wait? You want to wait? Or you're okay? No. No, it's zoom out. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's probably do it again. Maybe do it again. We'll do it again.
Yep.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. We are standing here today at the Marston Mansion for a very deliberate reason, one that I'll talk about in just a moment. This place, as many of you know, is not just a historic architecture, it is a statement about how Balboa Park came to be, and more importantly, why it came to be. This house standing behind me was once even considered to be the mayor's mansion because of its not just its historic nature, but the dynamic in which it and the confines in which it was built. This house is the house, or the former house, of the first San Diegan, the first resident. And so this place is that home of George Marston, that historic mansion of George Marston, who believed that Balboa Park was a gift to the people of San Diego, not a commodity, not a revenue stream, and certainly not a place where families would one day be asked to pull out a credit card just to park. Balboa Park pertenece a la gente. To understand why we are here today, you have to understand George Marston. To understand why we are having the discussion about the impacts of paid parking, you have to understand George Marston. Marston, my friends, was not just a businessman or a philanthropist. He was a civic steward. He believed that cities have a moral responsibility to protect public spaces. that belong to everyone, regardless of their income, regardless of their background or zip code. Marston was not just a businessman, but he was an active philanthropist. He was a civic steward. He believed that cities have a moral responsibility to protect public spaces that belong to everyone, regardless of their income, regardless of their background, or regardless of their zip code. Now, he believed parks were not luxuries. They were necessities. Places where children could learn, where families could gather, where culture, history, and civic life could thrive together. At critical moments in San Diego's history when Balboa Park could have been sold off, commercialized, carved up, he sought to preserve. He understood something that City Hall seems to be forgetting today. Once public access is lost, it is almost never fully restored. That belief is why Balboa Park remains a public commons more than a century later. And it is exactly why charging people to access it now represents such a profound break from that legacy in our city. Over the past year, the city of San Diego has moved in the opposite direction. Paid parking in Balboa Park was rolled out as a so-called fiscal solution. That's merely a joke. But what we have seen instead of confusion, inequity, declining attendance, harm to the workers of Balboa Park, and growing public frustration. One that has said that over 80% of San Diegans, a poll was ran that showed 80% of San Diegans want this thing gone. They want to boot paying for parking at a public park that has been public and free for over a century. And so, paid parking has become a regressive tax on access, a tax on families, a tax on children, a tax on our volunteers. You see, it's been a tax on working people, including those who make living inside Balboa Park, who make their living inside of Balboa Park every single day. Many of you in the media were there just last Friday when over 70 restaurant workers stood behind and with me and said, I support the proposal from Harris on the Balboa Park parking access and fairness ordinance that he's proposing. They said, we don't support a suspension. We want an entire repeal. Este es un impuesto a las familias trabajadoras. That is why my office has already introduced the Balboa Park parking access and fairness ordinance, which fully repeals paid parking in Balboa Park, not suspends it, not pauses it, but fully repeals it. You see, next Monday, February 9th, the San Diego City Council will debate that vision that I have of a full repeal against a proposal that is political optics to merely suspend parking fees. A proposal that leaves the paid parking system intact, and leaves it ready to turn back on at any moment. Let me be clear. A suspension is not a solution. A suspension is not a solution. A pause is not fairness. Una pausa no es una solución permanente. Suspension preserves the same enforcement systems, the same registration requirements, the same inequities for county residents, and the same uncertainty for workers, museums, and small businesses. Repeal does something fundamentally different. It restores clarity. It restores access. And it restores trust. But repeal also requires a certain level of honesty. And that brings me to why I'm here today announcing a new proposal. If the city is serious about repealing paid parking in Balboa Park, then it must be serious about how it also funds Balboa Park too. We as residents can't just talk about pulling a revenue stream back, but residents have to talk about a solution to fund the park going forward. Now, I understand many of the residents across our city feel like I do, feel strongly about that fact, that this deficit is not your fault. And as public advocate, I want you to know I'm with you. I understand how you feel. I understand the deep concern and pain that you feel like you're being put on the hook for a deficit that was caused by the city of San Diego. A deficit that was caused by mismanagement, lack of operational awareness. I get it. And I want you to know that I understand how you feel. The city is serious about repealing paid parking, though, and if we're all serious about it, we've got to have another discussion. What are some solutions that can come to help fund the park? Charging people to access a public park is a lazy substitute for responsible fiscal planning and management. Parking fees will never fix San Diego's multi-million-dollar budget deficit. They generate limited revenue while causing outsized harm. They do not even come close to addressing structural problems like bloated middle management, which the city has still not addressed, right? Mayor and the council, majority of them, have continued on this rampage of failing to acknowledge that their middle management crisis is where part of their problem is. They don't want to make those cuts. Bending the knee, maybe I should take Governor Newsom's advice and share some knee pads with some of these folks on the council, because they are just bending the knee to unions who, on the surface, have very good intentions. I've met with them. I support our city workers, but let us be clear. These middle management positions have nothing to do with the people who actually make San Diego work every day, the lower level positions in our city government, the folks who actually take care of our parks and recreation centers. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with communications professionals in the middle management sector of the city government that are being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and producing minimum to no results. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about middle management. We're not talking about cutting city government and specifically cutting people's jobs. We're talking about the fact that by the city charging for public parking in Balboa Park, they put restaurant workers' jobs at risk. They put museum workers' jobs at risk. That's a fact here. And so the conversation needs to be practical and solution-oriented when it comes to addressing this. So the city fails to look at duplicative administrative layers and long-standing inefficiencies that City Hall has refused to confront. Instead of looking inward, which most people are charged to have to do every single damn day because of their income, the working class, they continue to look to the taxpayer to fulfill the problem. And so that is backwards. And so today I'm announcing a new path forward, a proposal, an idea, one rooted in history, fairness, and common sense. The Marston Balboa Park Partner Program is what I'm announcing today. This program, if it was adopted by the city of San Diego, would create a formal, transparent framework to generate philanthropic and civic partnership funding for Balboa Park. And its infrastructure, its maintenance, and long-term stewardship. Without charging for residents, workers, visitors, just to park. Here's how it works. The Balboa Park Partner Program that I'm proposing establishes structured partnerships with foundations, donors, cultural institutions, corporations, and civic minded organizations who want to invest directly in our beautiful Balboa Park. Not through ad hoc donations or backroom deals, but through a public accountable system tied to specific park needs. This is not a radical idea. It is how great parks across the country are actually sustained. Just like Central Park in New York, and I can name a number of other parks. And it is how Balboa Park itself was originally built. George Marston, you see, did not believe parking meters funded civic beauty. He believed philanthropy and public good could work together. And that parks should never pay to enter spaces. This program revives that spirit of the man who lived in the mansion behind me today, and I'm welcoming you all to the Marston Mansion for this discussion because it is where Balboa Park started. It is the core of the man who helped to establish Balboa Park, along with Alonzo Horton and many of the other greats, San Diego greats. This program that I'm proposing today revives the spirit of those who came before us. Paid parking has shown us its consequences. Museum attendance has declined. Restaurant workers have lost hours. Families visit less frequently. Volunteers, many of whom live outside of city limits, are penalized for serving this park. Balboa Park es para todos. And yet, under the suspension proposal, those inequities will remain. County residents are excluded. Registration systems stay in place. Refunds for annual pass holders are unclear. Confusion continues. The Balboa Park Parking Access and Fairness Ordinance that I'm proposing, paired with now this new announcement of a proposal I'm making to establish the Marston Balboa Park Partner Program, offers something better, my friends. Permanence, equity, and purpose. It repeals paid parking outright for the citizens. It restores free access for everyone, city and county residents alike. And it replaces a flawed revenue model, one rooted in stewardship, in the spirit of George Marston. Next Monday, the decision does matter. This is not about parking. It's about who Balboa Park is for. This is a working class issue, an equity issue, a values issue. Este un tema de justicia y dignidad. I am calling on city leaders to reject half-baked measures coming before the council next Monday. I'm calling on philanthropic partners to step forward with our city and our residents. And I'm calling on residents across San Diego County to stand with us. We can absolutely fund this park without taxing access. We can honor history without sacrificing future. We can repeal paid parking, not someday, but now. George Marston believed that cities are judged not by what they charge people to enter, but by what they preserve for the next generation. Let's live up to that legacy here in San Diego. And now I'll take questions from the media. Any question? Question? Say it in English. Mm-hmm.
Is your proposal going to help our community without having to pay?
Oh, absolutely. I think so many people are penalized, not just in District 3 where I live in this community known as Balboa Park and specifically um, District 3, but people across the region will be impacted by this. This is a community issue on all accounts. And this proposal I'm making today would help to offset those costs to the citizens, and calls for our philanthropic community to step up um, and partner with the city to really try to remedy some of the budget deficit that the city's facing when it comes to funding the park and park maintenance, and it would offset those costs from citizens. So I believe that it is so beneficial to the community. Question, question.
When will you be proposing your when will you be presenting your proposal?
So next Monday, February 9th, there will be a discussion at City Council about a proposal that Council President LaCava has made, which seeks to suspend parking fees in Balboa Park. At that same juncture, there will be a debate about repeal. And my proposal, the Balboa Park Parking Access and Fairness Ordinance, seeks to fully repeal paid parking in the park, would refund citizens who have bought that annual pass immediately, um, and would essentially close this whole thing down. Also, my proposal would allow county residents to park for free, which is a big debate here because whether you live in Spring Valley or you live in La Mesa or you live in El Cajon or you live in um, San Marcos, you still have to pay for parking under La Cava's proposal, which is only for city residents. Um, his proposal also keeps the online system intact. And so if you're a city resident and you live in San Diego, the city under city limits, you would still have to go on the website that's there, and you would have to register your vehicle. To me, that's just it's ineffective for seniors who may not have access to technology. For the common citizen, the common family, no one wants to worry about having to go to a damn website to register their car so they don't get a ticket, so they can prove that they're a city resident and not a county resident. So, in my opinion, the whole plan needs to be scratched because it's not solving a problem either way it goes. So, yeah. Question?
Your current, can you elaborate on your current proposal
Mm-hmm.
timelines? What do we need to do as a community to support your proposal?
So, my proposal on the Balboa Park, the Marston Balboa Park Partner Program is just a proposal. It's not being heard at council. It's not a discussion right now. What I'm trying to do with this proposal today, as we head into Monday, is to let the city know that I understand the fiscal dynamic that we're in. And although it's not our fault as residents, it's not the taxpayers' fault. I'm sensitive to the fact that we are out of money, quite honestly. And what I'm trying to do is find other routes that we could take. And this solution may not be it, but I'm presenting some solutions as we get through the repeal conversation about other ways we can fund revenue for our park, maintenance, and the needs, offset costs to the city, and ultimately offset costs to the taxpayer. And I think at the end of the day, taxpayers and citizens, as well as our neighboring citizens, should not be on the hook for bad decisions that have essentially City Hall has made that had nothing to do with them. And so I'm going to do everything I can to fight like hell for this full repeal because I think it's dysfunctional. This whole program is dysfunctional. They had no plan. They had no strategy. They rolled this thing out. They did no study, no analysis to see what the overarching concerns would be, whether this would be effective or not. I mean, it is so half baked. I mean, it's like cooking ground turkey and not cooking it thoroughly. Somebody's going to get sick. I mean, this is a horrible plan, no strategy here. And I just believe this whole damn thing needs to be repealed. It's ineffective. It has not shown success.
and I believe it's going to economically deprive Balboa Park. It's going to kill economic innovation. It's going to kill investment because nobody's going to want to come. And I think this is a bad idea. And the city council has a chance next Monday to do the right thing, back my proposal, repeal parking fees entirely, and find another solution to fund the park's revenue issues and the city's revenue issues. But the taxpayers ain't it, and I can't support that. So, yep.
I heard hours are being cut for
Mm-hmm.
people working at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I heard people are starting to consider shutting down their businesses, their facilities, or their contracts in
Mm-hmm.
order because they're unable to sustain themselves because of the lack of attendance in the park.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually going to affect our community,
Mm-hmm.
their income.
Mm-hmm.
They won't be able to bring food to their table. They're going to have to find jobs elsewhere. So the unemployment is going up.
Yeah.
The resources, every our economy is going to be. It's already being affected. I guess
Well,
now it's being affected.
I mean, look, that's why I was there on Friday, standing with over 70 restaurant workers in the park. There was a lot who couldn't even make it, and the restaurant workers are deeply impacted by this policy. There's no doubt about it. The working class are deeply impacted by this policy. Also, many of them have had to walk long distances in the night from Inspiration Point to the restaurants, which is in the inner part of the park, uh, to get to work. And so, what's happening though is it's very clear. Many of them, their jobs are at risk. A repeal would save their jobs because it would open the park back up to everyone, get people back into the park, get that money being spent again, get people back to the restaurants. And I said this last week on Friday. If the museums got a cold, the restaurants got pneumonia. What I mean is the restaurants are more hit than the museums. And that's why I wanted to highlight that decline. It's deeply concerning to me. And I'm going to do everything I can to fight for the working class in this fight. This is on them. Well, I thank you all for being here. Next Monday, February 9th, and there's a lot kind of happening up to that. And so we'll continue to have that discussion and keep everyone abreast on this fight to repeal paid parking in Balboa Park and keep the park free for the common family. Uh, this is a working class issue. A lot of people are deeply impacted across our city. As you know, this has been deemed the most expensive city in America. And damn it, we've got to stop this regressive tax on the citizens. We've got to keep money in the citizens' pockets. That is my whole plan. I want to keep money in the pockets of the citizens. Let's put money back in the citizens' pockets. I think we can find, and we're innovative enough to find other creative ways to fund revenue, but this ain't it. And so we've got to do everything we can to address this deficit going forward. So thank you all, and that concludes. Thank you.